just remember that this session is recorded so that if you're not able to make it on time, I'm talking to you because you might be watching this on our YouTube channel afterwards. And so for everybody else, welcome to tonight's session. This is probably one of my most favorite subjects to talk about and to share and to really help you gain some clarity and a clear path on how you can realistically, through investing, create the type of income that you want. And so again, we're not even talking about asset classes just yet. And that's to come. And I'm just really curious in terms of what drew everybody here tonight. And so if you are able to unmute yourself, that'll be great. The way I typically like to run these sessions is to make sure that it is still somewhat interactive. I know it's not, pandemic times anymore, and we are on a webinar format. At the same time, though, I do like to create some engagement and interaction. So if you'll indulge me, let me know. So what brought you here tonight?
Basically wanting to keep up with repetition of staying in touch with educational content and staying sharp with the knowledge that I have and skills that I'm building.
Love it, Mike. So thanks for sharing and thanks for being the first one to volunteer yourself. And I'm going to come back to everybody with that question because at Treasure Talent Academy, we really believe that asset classes aside, I think we're all here to learn to invest, to create additional income streams and perhaps even long-term sustainable wealth. Can we all agree on that? Yes or yes? Okay, it's a pretty shy room right now. I will encourage everybody, if it's not a safety concern, make sure that you have your camera on for as much as of the presentation as you possibly can, because you've already put aside the time and we want to make sure that you really maximize what every single investor wants to maximize, which is the return on their investment. And we always say that time is really our greatest asset. If you're investing your time to be here, make sure you get the most out of it for yourself as well. And my lawyers really sleep a lot better when I put this slide on very quickly in the beginning of every presentation, because I want to share with you, shockingly, despite my background, I am not a lawyer, nor an accountant, and I don't count very well, to be honest. And what that really means is, while my parents temporarily were a little disappointed in their Asian son, right now, I think they're pretty happy about the career path I have chosen to go on into as an investor. At the same time, though, that's exactly what I want to share with everybody tonight, is that I would like for you to allow me to put my investor's hat, my entrepreneur's hat, my business owner's hats on with you so that I can really share with you what is real and what's possible rather than a bunch of the red tapes that a lot of people talk about and hear about. Is that okay with you? Give me a thumbs up or type in the chat box so that I can see you. There we go. And so, as I mentioned, not my degree. And in fact, English is not even my first language. I was born and raised in Taiwan. And so Mandarin is actually my first language. And so again, I am not here, and my team and I, really, we are not financial planners or accountants or tax advisors or lawyers for that matter, or anything that you can possibly think of as a licensed anything when it comes to even, say, real estate investing. However, we are educated and professional investors who are working with licensed professionals. And that means we have dedicated ourselves into learning how to work with a lot of OPK, other people's knowledge, other people's time, other people's expertise, and other people's money. And I think many of us, if you've already been investing, or at least you've been getting yourselves into a few different webinar sessions, wherever it may be, OPM is a big word that we've all heard of. And at TYT, we just want to be a little bit different if we can, because we really want to help you open up more doors and unblock a few things. And so within the community, I always ask people to write down and expand the acronym of OPM, other people's money, into OPM. And if you want to start writing things down, making notes for yourself, I would highly encourage you to do that, because even though a lot of times webinars seem to be a bit more of a one-way street, I'm so used to teaching and training in this industry now for nearly 10 years. In fact, next month will be my 10-year anniversary as a coach and a mentor in the financial education arena internationally. And so it's a bit of a professional hazard. So if you start to hear me sound like a broken record, meaning I repeat myself, It's not because my ESL-ness is coming out. It's simply because I do hope that you remember it and take it away as a nugget. So if that's okay with you, I want you to write down OPM as an OPIUM as the acronym. And I know some of you are looking at the word going, oh my goodness, what webinar did I just sign in for? What just like, where am I? And so I want you to write down, like I said, it's an acronym. So other than just other people's money, we always talk about the fact that it is other people's inactive, underutilized money that we want to work with, or that we can gain access to as an educated and professional investor. Why do we say inactive and underutilized? Simply because of the fact that when you start to think of those two words, I mean, do I have any non-Canadian audiences tonight? Any non-Canadian participants tonight? Okay, so then I don't have to expand the scope for everyone here. Oh, one person here, and you are Christophe. Where are you from? So while you, oh, for Lauderdale, so you are in the US, perfect. We do have North America's largest investing curriculum, which means we also have a US training course as well. And so again, we always like to say investing is international and depends on the asset classes. It can determine how you approach the different asset classes to help you create multiple sources of income as well as the wealth that you would like to build. Now, inactive, underutilized for a lot of Canadians, we're talking about maybe mutual funds, RSPs, RESPs, maybe your LIRA, your some sort of company pension plan, your stock options, your maybe even your savings accounts, your TFSAs. And for you, Christophe, being in the US, basically it's your 401k, okay, and any other types of savings account as you can possibly think of, just because we understand that for most people, those monies are not working very hard for them. And being an educated and professional investors, how we grow our portfolios is through what we always call share the wealth business model. Because by a show of hands, who here thinks that they have unlimited access to money? Not a lot of people, unless you've been to a session of ours. So Mike, I see you put your hands up because I can see that your mindset has already shifted. And that's the whole point, is that most people do see that that there is a limited amount of resources, especially when it comes to money. And the reality is, yes, if we're talking about personal resources. However, listen carefully. You will learn how to gain access to capital and an unlimited amount of financial resources when you become an educated investor, because people will have that level of confidence and trust in you, because guess what? You are now showing them that you are taking it seriously. And people like to do business with people that they know, like, and trust through the actions that you've demonstrated. And so putting yourself in a room like this tonight is considered one of those things. So congratulations. Now, with that said, I want to make sure that everybody understands this is the most powerful position to be in, because a lot of the times when people think about Trust Your Talent Academy, yes, our very initial and still around curriculum is heavily relying on and very, very tried and true asset class called real estate to demonstrate the principle of financial education and how money works. And at the same time, though, as a real estate investor, many of you, if this is your first session, I would definitely highly encourage you to get in touch with us so that you can get guided in terms of getting in touch with some of the materials that we've already put out there, so that you can get yourself start to familiarize with some of the language that we use and the terms. And so going back to what I was saying is that leveraging real estate, many of us understand that to build a successful real estate portfolio in a timely manner, you do need to learn how to leverage other people's knowledge, time, and expertise. What that means is your team, or as we frequently refer to it as your power team, would have to include people like realtors, mortgage brokers, contractors, lawyers, accountants, property managers, insurance brokers, so on and so forth. Because again, for you to realistically learn in each profession and the time that it takes for you to get licensed, probably you're not even going to get a property under your belt by the time we kick the bucket. And so Again, see, that's the part where my lawyer says you need to put on a disclaimer. The point is, we are learning how to build teams efficiently and effectively so that we can execute properly and securely to start and scale our portfolio in whatever asset class that we choose to embark on. And so for those of you who are in here, as I mentioned earlier, make sure that you have your camera on as much as you possibly can. And that way you can be as present and absorb as much as you can. So I want to share a little bit of session agenda because we are big fans of this one quote by one Mr. Benjamin Franklin. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And so this is a bit of a foreshadow because this entire session, what I'm going to walk you through, because everybody wants to know how can I create $20,000 in monthly income through investing, through leveraging different asset classes. And so this session is heavily going to be showing you exactly just how to make that path for you. And number two, which is what we're going to, this is about you. Because in all honesty, every single person, the coaches, the mentors, and the trainers on the Treasure Talent Academy team, we have all declared financial independence and financial freedom. And so what this means is this is a passion project for us. We want to put financial literacy out into the world as much as we possibly can. And so this is about understand where you're from so that if you have the desire to take it to the next level, we are able to give you a hand up. And I'm going to show you how you can get access to that. And then investor mindset. In order for you to learn how to create more wealth, I really need to encourage everybody to really flip a little bit in their mindset. Okay. Has anybody, by a show of hands, read a book by Robert Kiyosaki called, I know you think I was going to say Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's not. Has anybody read a book called The Cashflow Quadrant by a show of hands? Well, give me a bit of a emoji. Yeah, we got about half the room right now who's responding. And so basically that's 10 out of 10, pretty much in my opinion. So the idea behind this is that if you've read that book, you understand we have the employee, self-employed, and investor and business cash flow quadrants. And what that really means is that the mindset behind how incomes are generated are so massively different within each quadrant. And so I'm going to do a quick reminder with you in a little bit as well, and sharing with you the two different asset classes that we're going to leverage to build a plan. And again, nothing is one size fits all, especially when it comes to somebody's financial journey. And that's what we firmly believe in here at Treasure Talent. And that's why I'm going to show you a path. However, how you can actually build your own, I'm going to share with you how exactly you can do an audit or a strategy session, depending on the situation that you're in. An audit means that it's a portfolio audit. If you've already gotten started in investing, whatever asset classes that you're in, maybe you haven't gotten started in a lot of paper assets yet, maybe no real estate, perhaps even just your typical RSPs, your pension plans, that's totally okay. I'm going to share with you a method for you to get an audit or a plan going that is tailored to you specifically. And next, I want to share with you a little bit about who we are. And again, who's this person that is talking in front of you? And an educated investor's process to investing and wealth building. You will notice that a lot of the things that we discuss, yes, real estate and paper assets are going to be the main vehicles. However, we really focus on your financial goal. And very much like what Robert Kiyosaki says, as adults out of school, our report cards are our financial statements at the end of the day. And so that is the part that we focus on. And you're going to see that in a little bit in terms of why we believe so strongly about it. And number 7 is actually 5 steps to formulating your own plan. A little bit of typo there. And next steps and action taker. And if there's time left, I'm going to be doing a little bit of an open Q&A with everybody. So on that note, this is about you. Very quickly, why are you here? I want to get a sense in terms of what kind of room we have tonight so that maybe we're all pretty advanced so that I can skip some of the basic stuff, or somewhere in between. So let me know, where are you from, first of all? And are you currently investing? And if so, what are you investing in right now? Either unmute yourselves or type it in the chat box. Is it simply just in your savings account? Is it company stock options? Is it retirement funds? Is it mutual funds? Are you in Bitcoin, maybe some sort of crypto? Or have you invested in real estate already? Okay. Gonna give everybody a few seconds here to type it out. Let me know. Savon, you're already in real estate. Weddy, Sweet It, property rental. Awesome. Okay. Might have to just rely on the good old chat box there, Christoph. It's all good. It's all good. And so again, my next question for everybody is whatever portfolio you got, is it providing you the financial results that you want right now? Is it a yes? Or is it maybe? I'm not quite sure. It could do better, I think. So, not yet. Great. And I don't mean great as in, I'm taking joy in your situation here. Great as in, thank you for sharing. Like I said, it's not my first language. Sometimes these things just slip out. So you got to bear with me a little. And last but not least, I'm curious, what will making $20,000 a month from investing, for some of you, it might be for an additional 20,000, because I know we joke about firing your boss all the time, having declared financial freedom and everything. However, at TYT, we really don't believe that you need to, because on some level, I believe that many of us, the career that we have built for ourselves is the result of really our heart, our tears, our sweat, our financial resources and time that we've investing in. And maybe it does bring us some joy and we just want better financial results. Okay. So what would making an additional 20,000 or just $20,000 from investing do for your life? Can do more, can do better. So again, one of the things that we always talk about internally within the community and especially the training team is this question is, what could you do better, different, or more at every turn? And so I can see that I got a room of go-getters tonight. And so Folake, is that how I say your name? You'll retire? Awesome. You know what? I retired myself at the age of 30. Well, not 25. However, I retired myself at the age of 30, and yet I am back here starting a new business. And that's why to me, one of the best things about being able to retire myself, meaning I don't have to worry about money for the rest of my life, is that I am finally able to pursue my passion project. And that is why I'm here tonight with everybody to share my experiences, my knowledge with you, and I hope you will enjoy it and take a lot out of it. And so first thing first, investor mindset, focus on ROI. ROI, as we all know, stands for return on investment. And as I keep saying, in this particular case, you are literally investing the most precious asset and commodity that we all share. And that is time, because money will come and go. Certain things, certain people, circumstances will come and go. However, the one thing that we all have in common is that once the time has passed, it has passed. Again, I know if you're a sci-fi fan, I've had people that argue with me talking about time machines. Now is not the time. I'm just going to say that. So let's focus on making sure we capitalize on the return of your time investment here. So what I'm going to do is, I understand just because you're on a 2-hour webinar, it doesn't mean that the rest of your life stops. And so maybe some of you are thinking about, oh my God, tomorrow I still got to do this, or after this session, I still got to cook and prep lunch for my kids, for my parents, for whoever, and you got to get ready for work. I want you to just take a quick minute, grab your pen and paper, and just clear your mind quickly. We like to call this exercise a bit of a mind dump, because you'll be very surprised when you focus how much more you get out of everything and the time that you're investing into, okay? And so once again, I'm gonna give everybody a quick minute just to get this done. Ready? 1, 2, and grow. Hey, Faraz, welcome. You have four names, or does that mean that you're from SAIT or you're going to SAIT currently?
Yeah, no, I do actually have 4 names.
Okay, got it. Where are you from, Faraz?
Well, I grew up in Kenya, but originally from India.
Amazing. Okay, we're just gonna do a quick mind dump, and we're gonna get this session going here. So hopefully you are ready and you're present, because again, we say focus also is another acronym that we love. It stands for follow one course until successful. And so tonight, if you're present, I think you're gonna take a lot out of it. And so first thing first, who am I? Why am I speaking in front of you? And while I didn't get all the fancy letters behind my names like my parents wanted me to, these are some of the letters that I've given myself over the last few years now. So I'm a professional real estate investor and a private equity investor, an entrepreneur, or sometimes I would call myself an serial entrepreneur, and an award-winning mentor. And I do have a bachelor in business administration from SFU, as we talked about right before the session started. And for me, though, traditional education really got me a decent job. However, it didn't get me a decent life nor stable mental health. I'll put it that way. And so I really do find that, just like one of my all-time favorite motivational speaker, Jim Rohn, says, learn to invest in yourself, because self-education will make you a fortune. And so even though over the last 14 years now at this point, I've made a huge amount of investment into my personal development, professional development outside of traditional schooling, it has made me 100-fold back. And so I truly believe in personal and self-education. And from financial education to financial freedom, it took me 25 months to retire myself from a six-figure income job. And my current portfolio is in the US, Canada, as well as the United Kingdom, just so you know a little bit of background. And so what that really ultimately means for a lot of you is the different strategies that I've utilized to create income streams and to create multiple sources of income and my retirement wealth as a result. And so here's just a quick short list for you. And so on that note, though, as I mentioned, the whole point of this is just bear with me, because sometimes I might get a little tongue-tied still in this environment because it's not my first language. However, what I always want to share with everybody else is the fact that when I first moved to Canada, and Jeff, you would know this, I moved to a little town called Maple Ridge. And not a lot of people know where that is. If you're curious, feel free to Google map it later after the session. However, it is a very small town in the Lower Mainland. I mean, because of the last 15 years, the real estate market has really elevated its status. However, really 20 something years ago when I first moved here, it was coming from a major city in Asia. Maple Ridge felt like a teeny tiny town with 3 houses on it. The whole point, though, is that I actually did not speak English when I first moved to Canada. And so sometimes I really do feel like it sounds a little cheesy and almost infomercially. But I always say, if I can accomplish something just by getting financial education and creating the financial results that I have, I believe that everybody else can. So it has nothing to do with language, with your cultural background, with anything. It's just simply putting your mind to it, as well as learning something that you have never learned. Every single one of us may have originally had some sort of a profession or career or a job. Even now, what you do today and what you're super good at today, on the first day of your job, maybe you weren't so good and so efficient at it either. And it's the same path when it comes to financial education as well, and learning to become a professional investor. And so as a result, as I mentioned, one of the best part about retiring myself is I'm able to honor my own why. Now, first thing first is knowledge. And to me, knowledge equals safety. And by knowledge, I really mean financial education and financial literacy. One of the main reasons why, and just so everybody knows, I've had some pretty major health challenges in my life so far, and knock on wood, so far being the operative word. I've had 3 minor heart attacks, a major heart surgery, a depression as a result, and I do also live with 6 autoimmune disorders on a daily basis. And the funny thing about that, though, I mean, going through it, there was nothing funny about it. I just want to make that clear. However, the funny thing about that is, if everybody here, I don't know how old everybody is, and it's okay, you don't have to share that. I'm not going to ask you to anyway, is that if you remember what happened between the years of 2008 and 2009, global financial crisis. I had already been in the workforce for a few years, and I realized that, oh my goodness, everything that I was taught to do, meaning how to be good with my money, quote unquote, is go to school, get good grades so you can get a good job, good pay, maybe a ladder to climb, get some benefits. You're going to get company stock options, some sort of pension plan. If you have extra money, make sure you put it away in savings, max out your RSPs, your TFSAs, and put in a savings account or pay down your mortgage as quickly as you possibly can. I was doing all of that. And having gotten financially educated, I realized that none of that means anything because in 2009, every single time I look at my statement from the bank, from any sort of investment that I've made into, other than savings account, nothing was growing. But then even savings account was growing at 1%. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or immigrant or not to realize that, oh my goodness, I am working 80 hours a week right now, and I am never going to be able to retire on this kind of numbers. And so I decided that I'm going to pull all my money out and put it into real estate because real estate is a great asset class and people always make money in real estate, right? Well, that's what I thought. And turns out not so much. And this is why, again, if you've watched people interviews like Robert Kiyosaki, once again, when people like to ask him, hey, Robert, you wrote a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's all about investing in real estate. Do you think real estate is a great asset class to be in? And he will say, well, I don't know. Are you educated enough to leverage real estate as an asset class to make you money? And then they go, okay, then what do you think about stocks? Because I know in addition to real estate, you also promote stock investing in stocks and trading quite a bit. And he will go, well, I don't know if it's a good asset class for you. Are you educated well enough to make it work for you? And so I think you understand where I'm coming from here, because when I put my money into a commercial development project, as a 20-something-year-old, I was walking on air. I thought I was the coolest kid around the block. And then within a short amount of time, I realized that the developer took everybody's money and ran. And that was every last penny of my hard-earned dollars. And because of what happened, I decided and I realized really that, oh my goodness, if I don't know what I'm doing, I can work for another 20, 30, 40 years only to have my money cheated and taken away from me. So first thing first, I know a lot of people always want to talk about scale your portfolio, scale your portfolio. While that is a great buzzword, at Trust Your Talent, we always like to say that we want to make sure that you learn how to crawl before you walk, and you can walk properly before you can run. And so knowledge equals safety, meaning we gotta help you build a path that is secure before you can escalate. Is everybody okay with that concept by a show of hands? Awesome. And so on that note, for me, the reason why I mentioned every challenge that I've been through is because I really realized that time was escaped from me. Working 80 hours a week, I have very little time to take care of myself. And I see that all around. And that's why we have 5 very, very important core values, which I will share with you. And that means I can free my time up to choose to do the things that truly matter to my personal values first and foremost. And last but not least is impact. And so again, being financially free at the age of 30 was amazing. And I'm not bragging. All I'm sharing here is the fact that when I retired myself, I realized that I was very bored and very lonely because nobody else in my life was financially free. And so when I wanted to go out for lunch, go to the mall during the day with my friends, or go do anything during the day, during the week, nobody would be available. And this is why Trust Your Talent has been such an amazing community for each other. And that is part of the impact and the legacy that personally I would like to create. And some of the finer prints here would be creating 1,000 millionaires by the year 2040. And also just because I started relatively young and I've always enjoyed empowering young entrepreneurs. And so this is why I call myself a private equity investor as well, is the fact that unofficially I do run my own version of Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, if you will, and helping people get started in their own passion project and businesses. And so that's enough about me. What I really want to go into is the two different asset classes that we are going to leverage tonight to demonstrate and help you get started on making a plan for yourself. So between real estate, paper assets, as well as cash versus savings. So I'm just going to borrow a saying from virtually every single financial guru that you've heard out there, with one exception, I'm not going to name names, is that savers are losers. Because if you understand how money works, you understand that if you've been saving for the last 5-10 years, your money barely even beat inflation, especially with the pandemic. It really didn't do anything for us. If anything, your money has devalued. However, if you've at least gotten started in some other kinds of asset classes or other types of investing, and ideally you've made some money, okay? And I don't mean on paper, I mean some real money, then congratulations. And these are the main two asset classes that we want to share with you tonight, which is real estate and paper assets. And these are the 5 different factors that we always like to examine on. So control, meaning value and performance. I know a lot of the times, especially some people that are currently investing in the stock markets or even the futures markets or options, they're always going to be like, well, you can't control anything. Well, you can if you have a proper strategy. Okay, very much like real estate. We are teaching you to understand how to take calculated risk. That's ultimately what financial education is about. And then we talk about leverage. So for real estate, most people know that if you want to buy a property, a rental property in this country, at the very least, the typical down payment requirement is 20%. And what that means is you get to borrow 80% of what you need to purchase that asset, which is amazing. And for paper assets, a lot of the time, let's just say, for $100,000 in your bank account right now in cash, you can theoretically buy $500,000 worth of real estate. However, when it comes to stocks, mutual funds, or anything else in the paper assets area, you can only invest $100,000 or buy $100,000 worth of stocks. However, for the financially educated, you will learn how to leverage, how to borrow, how to access capital when you need it. And the third one is tax benefits. Through the proper corporate structure, you will learn actually how to create what we call income and asset protection strategies for your own portfolios that you will building. And the idea behind all of that is, again, I know people like to talk about taxes a lot right off the bat. However, we always say, you know what, let's put that as one of the last things that we discuss, because you got to make money before you pay taxes. So the fact that you may have to pay some sort of taxes is actually a good thing. That means you've made some money. So I'm not saying it's not the first thing we want to talk about. I'm just saying that I'm not saying that it's not the first thing we want to talk about. I'm just saying that it should not be the priority or the main focus for every single investor. It is an important subject by all means, though. And then equity build between real estate is notoriously known as long-term wealth. That's where the wealth is built. Because if you look around the world's wealthiest corporations and individuals, they either started in real estate or they continue to park their money in real estate. And so the thing about paper assets, it depends on the strategies and how you approach it. I know a lot of people, they do it, they day trade, they treat it as income, and that's great. What we do and what we teach here at TYT is that you actually have the ability, once again, like real estate, is it an income source or is it a long-term equity play, or is it a combination of both? And last but not least, the liquidity of the different asset classes. Real estate, as we know, moves a lot slower. However, this is also why real estate tends to be the most tried and true and the safest asset class for even the most beginners of investors, just because it's not as volatile compared to the stock markets, for example. However, as investors or business owners, we understand liquidity is a very important factor as well. So these are just some of the factors that we typically compare. If you want to see the full comparison, make sure you actually go onto our YouTube channel, which is Treasure Talent Academy's YouTube channel, and you find Season 2 of my Daily Dose with Tim. During the pandemic, I actually created some content to put out there as well. And I know that I've gotten some decent feedback on it. And I encourage you to subscribe and go and watch some of the videos so that you can continue to learn about financial education, especially leveraging real estate and paper assets now. Now, on that note, I do want to quickly share with everybody who TYT is, Trust Your Talent Academy. We are made in Canada and the USA, and we do have the largest and most complete financial education curriculums, programs, and training team in North America, if not in the world already. I am the principal and the founder for Trust Your Talent Academy, and as I keep saying, this is truly a lifetime passion project at this point. And we're very, very proud to say that we do also have the most bespoke, meaning the most tailored and customizable curriculum in the marketplace today. Like what I said earlier, it's not one size fits all. Even when I'm looking around the room, I see different ages, and I'm pretty sure there's different jobs, different current financial realities, and different financial goals. And so the whole concept of you can just take a single course, take a single strategy and create the financial results for yourself, it is something that I personally do not subscribe to. And this is why we're very proud of the fact that every single person gets their own path. And I'll show you at the end here on how you can get that path going for yourself. And so what that means is it's the one-on-one support is extremely important. And all coaches, trainers, and mentors here at Trust Your Talent walk the talk. Number one, it means that we are, as I mentioned, are already financially independent and financially free. And so we walk the talk as in we still continue to invest in ourselves and make investments in real estate and other asset classes as well, because we want to make sure that all the education and the information and the coaching and the guidance that you're getting are relevant. Because to me, relevancy is a huge word that I think a lot of people, especially aspiring investors, overlook. We live in the information age. Okay, so what that means is information is no longer the most valuable thing anymore. And this is why the support, the people, and the tailored guidance is really where it's at. Because we like to joke, honestly, if information alone was enough, we would all have six packs and everybody would be billionaires by now, right? And that is just not the real world. And so we want to make sure that everybody understands the importance of how relevant education and handholding means to you. And we also focus on what we call full immersion delivery. So how Trust Your Talent Academy delivers its training and its support is what we call full immersion. You will not find another education company or academy that has as many events, as many trainings, as much support as TYT out there, guaranteed. And as an investor, I don't usually throw around the G word, by the way. And last but not least, this is really what truly sets us apart at the end of the day. We are education only. Our goal is to create the Harvard of financial education, meaning we focus on educating you and helping you grow sustainable income and wealth in the long term. And what that also means is coaches, trainers, and mentors are not allowed to do deals with students, because to us, that is a giant conflict of interest. So that if anybody is just training you enough and then they pitch you a deal, I would highly suggest that you run, okay? Because again, we don't believe that money changes people. We do believe that money reveals people greatly. And so in this particular case, we want to make sure that the philosophy that everybody will take away is you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, and you teach a man how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And our goal with what we do and what we want to put out there into the world is to teach you how to fish. And in this particular case, how to invest strategically, securely, and profitably. And so moving forward, really, one of my biggest idol in this entire world is Sir Richard Branson. And if you know a little bit about his story, you'll be really inspired to. If not, highly recommend him. Check him out. But this is one of the quotes that I love is, you are making a difference in other people's lives. You shouldn't be in business. It's that simple. And it's because of that very idea that Trust Your Talent was born. a few years ago. And we have a vision and a mission statement from day one with some of the key core values. And so again, our mission is to create financial independence one person at a time, because we believe that financial health is very, very important. Because very much like physical health, it's one of those things that sometimes we just overlook it, or we don't do anything about it until something hits the fan and we are forced to re-examine. However, if we are able to get ahead of that in the ideal world, then everybody would just be able to live a little bit better, a little less stress, a little less arguments in the family. Because guess what? What is the number one contributing factor of divorces in relationships these days? A lot of times it's money. I know one of our trainers like to joke, the number one contributing factor to divorces is marriage, but that's, like I said, that's a joke. The point is though, we want to make sure that you look after your financial health, because I grew up in a culture where I literally have seen countless aunts and uncles and just people in general that they work like, I don't know why they say dogs. However, I'm just going to use that analogy. They work like dogs, and then for the better part of their lives, and then only to accumulate some sort of wealth, and then they now in the latter part of their life spending all that wealth on health because they've never taken care of themselves. And so we want to make sure that you are able to create that balance for yourself. So tonight, even though the title says $20,000 a month, I want to make sure that what we're going to share with you is something that's going to be sustainable, because that is a core value for us. So first thing first, as I mentioned, our report card as adults is our financial statement. And so ultimately, what you get to keep and use at the end of the day is really where it's at, and it's really what matters. And so the goal-focused approach says this. This is what we call the wheel of wealth. And so we have three different income buckets. The first one is earned. If you're making notes, I want you to write down earned/active. And then the second one is passive and passive/residual. Last but not least, portfolio/equity income. So earn/active income, passive/residual income, portfolio/equity income. So I want you to look at portfolio and equity income very much like a piggy bank when we were little kids. Hopefully you had one too. And see it as a piggy bank. And that's where your equity is stored, your equity is housed, and that's okay. However, at TYT, we don't believe in hoarding properties. We don't hoard anything. Why? Especially when it comes to real estate, we believe, and I firmly believe, that properties are like people. The older we get, the costlier it costs to maintain us, and the slower our performance is. As much as we hate to hear that, I believe that it is every bit of the reality. And so the idea is kind of like playing Monopoly in real life. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. When you have and are equipped with the right knowledge and strategies and the experience and the guidance, you are going to learn to let go of properties so that you can unlock the equity and start trading up to decrease the amount of work that you're going to have, and to increase the performance that your overall portfolio will be running. However, let's put it this way. If you look at the general public, most people, if they have a job, it falls under the earned and active income bucket, which is what we call trading hours for dollars. At the same time, as a professional and educated real estate investor, you will be learning the different strategies that will also feed into that income bucket as well. And then if we are somewhat like myself, okay with money, at least that's what I thought what okay meant. Every extra penny that we have left over on a monthly basis, we put it into some sort of savings, some sort of investment, that vehicle that we know, okay? And so glaringly, you can see that most people are missing a very important income bucket. And that is the income bucket that causes, in my opinion, a lot of stress, a lot of arguments, and a lot of mental health challenges these days for a lot of people. And so again, what is your goal? I want to help you be very, very clear about it. And so financial freedom, Is it to achieve financial freedom? And at Trust Your Talent, we always say definitions matter. So if you're making notes, please write this down. And if you're just listening, please pay attention as well. We have 3 different tiers of financial freedom numbers because, again, you can't hit a target you can't see. And so we want to be very, very clear with everybody so that the path is clear. Financial freedom number 1 is when you have enough passive income to cover all of your basic expenses. Okay, your basic expenses will be your housing, your transportation, your groceries, food, these days, utilities, your cell phone bills, internet connections. For most people, it's usually that, and then some personal care. Okay, we're not talking about a luxurious lifestyle by any means. And that is financial freedom number 1, because by definition, if you have enough passive income coming in to pay all your basic bills, you don't really have to get out of bed every morning anymore to go to work, to find a different source of income to come in. However, this is what it brings us to now, is financial freedom number 2. Because yeah, 1 sounds great. You've now freed up 40 hours a week, or in my case, 80 hours a week. And most people that I talk to, they say, usually it's more like 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, because I also have to commute. And sometimes I do stay a little longer and work a little bit harder. And so the point is, financial freedom number 2 is what we call the job replacement, or your JOB replacement number. And JOB in our world now, as professional investors, stands for just over broke. And by that definition, that's why it's financial freedom number 2. Because if you currently have one, you understand this. They pay you just enough that you can pay all your basic bills and have a little bit of a lifestyle. Meaning you can eat out, you can afford to buy birthday presents, you can maybe go on trips, you maybe take the family out to Disneyland, Disney World, whatever it is. There's just that extra little bit that keeps you there. And so for a lot of people, financial freedom number 2 is what we usually aim for. However, now you have a clear path. Knock one goal out first before you hit the second one. And financial freedom number 3 in our world, and by our definition, is our do whatever we want, however we want, whenever we want, with whomever we want, for however long as we want. Okay? Whatever you want, whenever you want, whomever you want, whenever we want, and whoever, and as long as we want. And so most people that I know, I'm surrounded by, luckily, a lot of people that are worth 8, 9, 10 digits. And we all share one simple truth, is nobody will ever say that we're financial freedom number 3. However, we are all pretty free, and we have the time and the ability and the blessing to be able to pursue whatever it is that we are most passionate about. And so that could be financial freedom. Is that your goal? Think about it. Or is it simply financial independence? So you notice that financial freedom means that incomes are largely coming from just a passive income bucket. However, financial independence, most of the times, by our definition, will be incomes that will cover your JOB income from both the earned and passive bucket. Okay, from both the earned and passive bucket. And so tonight I'm going to show you how you can accomplish financial independence and making $20,000 a month with a few different strategies. And so thanks, Wendy, for sharing, because everybody's got different numbers. 5K, 8K, 10K might be your different numbers. Whatever it may be, these are the numbers that you will work towards to hitting, okay? And next, firing your boss. Do something else that's meaningful with your life. Or a lot of our students, basically what they want is simply, you know what, I don't hate my job. I've been at it for 20 something years. I'm pretty close to retirement, and I make pretty good money right now with minimum amount of stress, because I've already paid my dues. And I just want to make sure that I secure my retirement and I can continue to improve my lifestyle, and more importantly, not have to suffer after retirement. So that all kind of ties into the last little bit here, which is a happy retirement. So an average Canadian, years ago before COVID, the statistics would say that an average Canadian would need at least $1 million in any sort of equity or investments in order for them to retire comfortably. Okay. And I'm going to use air quotes on that word as well, because everybody's definition of comfortable is also different. And so again, you get to decide on how you want to hit that. These days, the new statistics is 1.6 million Canadian dollars to retire comfortably. Okay. So again, if you are not sure if you're going to get there, I'm going to offer you an opportunity to speak to a strategy coach later on to do a strategy or an audit session. And last but not least, legacy. Maybe some of you are going, hey, you know what? I actually run a small business. I make millions and millions of dollars already. I just want to make sure that my kids are financially educated. And because I hard knuckled this my entire life, it was the school of hard knock. I just want to learn a system and a process that I can pass down to my kids, whatever the case may be. Or some parents that are students, they basically just want to show their kids that they don't have to be stuck in a regular 9 to 5, and that they have the abundance and the resources to build whatever kind of lifestyle that they want. So however you want to define any of these. The whole point though is very much like how Weddy shared it, 5, 8, and 10,000. Now, educated investors process. A lot of it may be a little fluffy for people. Numbers, dollars, and cents is what I like to focus on. Yeah, this is where the Asian genes are coming out now, I think. Dollars and cents is what I like to focus on. Is the educated investors process, is the fact that once you have those clear goals, because again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that money solves all problems. However, I will say this, and this is a saying that I learned from a friend's mom. She's also Asian, surprise. He says that if it's something that money can solve, you don't really have a problem. If it's something that money can solve, you don't really have a problem. I want you to think about that. Because while money cannot buy happiness, a happy home, a happy marriage, a healthy body, it can do a lot of things. Why? Because it is the most commonly used tool now in the modern world that we all live in to trade time, services, and products with. And this is why so many people focus on the money. However, we want to make sure that you focus on the assets that are going to give you the money. And by the way, what do you think is the best asset that we all have access to? Every single one of us. What is the best income generating asset that we all have? Richard, your mom said that too. Love it. Ourselves. We are by far. I know some people like to say maybe it's crypto, maybe it's stocks, maybe it's real estate, maybe it's oil, maybe it's gold. It's ourselves. Okay, those things, same thing, will come and go. However, learn how to invest in yourself so that you are able to create all the results you want. And so when you have all those numbers down, that's your financial goal. And once you have a financial goal, we take a process that we call SMP. And so if this is your first time hearing about this, make sure you write it down. Is that especially when it comes to leveraging real estate as your main asset class to create income sources, most people we know, they do what we call the buy and praise approach, meaning they probably are working some kind of job. They are interested in real estate. And again, that's the difference between interested versus committed, okay? At TYT, we're committed to leverage the chosen asset class to create income sources for us. And so most people, they just want to dabble. And so they have a job, they probably subscribe to some sort of a mailing list with a realtor or realty company, and chances are it's in their own backyard, the market, the neighborhood, and they go to open houses on weekends when they don't have to be in the office. And when they go, they tend to get emotionally motivated because, again, otherwise they wouldn't be spending their precious time there. They could have just been sitting on the couch, Netflix and chilling the whole weekend. However, they choose to go to an open house and they'll see the property and they will start to convince themselves. And again, the realtors might start to convince them, hey, you know what? The market's really picking up. This neighborhood is really up and coming. Do you see this? Do you see the school around the corner? Then all they do is they're going to do whatever it takes to buy it and have one strategy that they can execute. And that's what we call the buy, rent, and pray strategy, because they now have an empty house. And so they got to put an ad out and they pray, number one, that this property, physically speaking, will always be strong and tough and hold up well. Very minor reno issues, maintenance issues that's going to cost a lot of money. Pray that the tenants that they get will always be good people, meaning they'll always pay rent on time and never ever trash the property. So I can see that most of us in this room, and at least the ones with their cameras on right now, we all have some life experiences. Does life always go as planned? Not necessarily. And so this is why we don't leave things up to chance. We want to learn how to calculate our own risk whenever we get into a deal. And so SMP stands for strategy or strategies. M stands for market. P stands for property. And what that means really is your investing vehicle is the last thing you will actually look at. Let your goal dictate the strategies you will go into, and let the strategies dictate the markets that you need to be in. Because sometimes wanting to invest in your own backyard is like pounding a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work. Okay. And then once you get into that market, then you start looking for the right property that will contribute ultimately to your financial goal. And at TYT, we also say we do the 3x3 rule. And what that is 3 strategies in 3 different markets. So for everybody that wants to start, secure, and scale their property portfolios, 3x3 is what we encourage you to have, and how we help you build your portfolio over time. And so I understand, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people will say, I don't have a lot of money myself. And some of them will even say, I have no money to get started. I have a little bit, maybe I'm paycheck to paycheck right now. So I want to share a little bit of share the wealth with you model. And I want to do everything backwards, as in we always start from the end goal in mind. No different than an Olympic athlete. They always envision that win when they get the gold medal. And so start with the end goal in mind and walk backwards or reverse engineer it. So how about, let's say you are able to put in some sort of sweat equity, and now you give up 50% to bring in financial equity or money partner. And then what that looks like is, let's say if you want to make $20,000 a month, that means $240,000 a year for you. After that, you got to remember, by the way, it's not just you anymore in the equation. That means on an annual basis, you actually need to be bringing in about $250,000 almost, 480,000 here. And assuming your average portfolio cash on cash return is 20%. So I'm talking about your entire portfolio across the board, regardless of which property, which paper asset that you're going into, okay? And some deals are in the 30s, 40s, 50% range. Some are in the infinite return range. Once you've gone through real estate investing fundamentals with us, you'll learn what we call the BRRRR process as well. So I'm just going to do a low average of 20% across the board right now. So what that means is that you need to learn how to raise funds for your business. And the amount you need to raise is $2.4 million. So this makes it very, very clear in terms of what the target is. What kind of capital do we have to gain access to create the results we want? So again, for some of you, if you want to break it down even a little bit, maybe you said just $5,000 for now as my first goal, then 10, then 20. My job tonight is to show you a formula that's duplicatable, okay? And that is the process of mentorship as well. It's a duplicatable process. And I also want to remind everybody, this little breakdown here has not even factored in. If you actually had any sort of personal resources, maybe if you've already been investing, you've got lazy money. And by lazy money, I mean money that could be working harder for you. Maybe it's working for you, but hey, if your money is making currently 10%, you've got an option to make 20%. Do you want to stay in the 10%? Probably not. Again, I understand everybody's level of risk tolerance is going to be different, and that's what financial education is going to help you determine alongside of working with your mentors as well. And we're also not counting refinance and potentially, as you grow, new access to resources. I will share this with you. I started on this journey in my late 20s, and I'm in my 40s now. It's a lot easier to raise funds, not only because I have track records, but also because I do look much older now. And so 14 years ago, can you imagine somebody coming up to you looking like a kid, wanting to ask you for $500,000 of your money so they can go and invest in some real estate deal? And so the idea is, as you learn, as you grow, as you expand, you will gain new access to financial resources and investors that'll be more willing to open up their wallet to you. And so here we go. 5 steps to $20,000 a month. Step 1, elevate your financial literacy. Okay. I want every single person to understand that most of our financial blueprint came from people that are not even financially free or financial independent, nor making $20,000 a month. So before you take any suggestions or advice, take Tony Robbins' advice first. He says that if you want to accomplish something that you don't have in life, you want to find somebody else that has done that and follow their footsteps. And so I may have butchered that a little bit, however, you get the concept. Elevate your financial literacy first, because you got to rewrite your blueprint. And so what that means, once again, is you cannot hit a target you can't see. And so usually the first step that we usually guide you through is to have you fill out your financial statement, and starting with income and expenses, because all we need to know is how much money you need to survive first, so that we can start planning the steps towards financial freedom. And at the same time, though, maybe that's not what you're looking for. Regardless, the point is, learn to differentiate the difference between asset versus liability. Once again, if you need that lesson, make sure after the session, you go back to our YouTube channel and look for my Daily Dose with Tim Season 2, Episode 2. Okay, so on this note, I know I've been talking up a storm right now. I'm just going to throw it back into the room. Either unmute yourselves or do it in the chat box, if you will. Okay, I'm going to give you some ideas and you let me know if it's considered an asset or a liability. Okay, first thing first, is a car an asset or a liability? A liability, love it. Is a rental property an asset or a liability? Ah, Ken, it depends. Christoph, asset. So a rental property, so love it. It depends. It really does depend. If it's making you money on a monthly basis, that means it's an asset, okay? And if it's losing money and taking money out of your bank account or from your pocket every month, it's considered a liability. Now, here at TYT, we want to make sure everybody understands that we operate based on a cash flow model. We operate based on a cash flow model. Now, real estate aside, I'm going to ask you a question. Would you knowingly buy a business knowing that it's not going to make you money on a monthly basis? Most people will say no. And yet most people, when it comes to real estate, operate the exact opposite way. So at the very least, we want to make sure that you understand we operate based on a cash flow model, regardless of the asset class or the investment vehicle or the property type or the paper asset that you choose to go into. Okay, so it means that it needs to be a viable business. Every single property, for example, in this case, needs to be a viable business. And to be a viable business, it needs to stay in the green. And how does it stay in the green? Is through all the due diligence and the deal analysis that you will be doing to determine that range for yourself. And so next, what about your spouse's asset or liability? No, I'm just kidding. I'm waiting for a reaction. Come on, people, help me out here. I know it's an intimate room, so sometimes it's a little bit more challenging. And last but not least, what about financial ignorance? An asset or liability? It's a huge liability. In this particular case, ignorance is definitely not bliss. I can share that with you. And again, understanding financial independence versus financial freedom and what you truly want. And I explained the difference between the 2 for everyone earlier. So make sure that you review that portion and ask yourself those questions, because later on when you're speaking with a strategy coach and eventually the trainers and your mentors, they are going to ask you those questions as well, because we are here to guide you to the goal you want to hit, not to give you a goal to hit. Okay. This has to be something that's coming from you. And also, learning how to maximize income protection is where it's at for the savviest investors of all. Because it's not how much you make that matters, it's how much you keep. You can make $100 and spend $100, you're left with nothing. That's the perpetual rat race still. Because some people make $100 million a year, $200 billion a year, and they spend just as much, if not more. It means nothing. And so we want to share with you how you can protect that. And so step 2, learn all the strategies that you need to learn. And this is the slide where I will encourage everybody to take a picture of after everything is on the screen. And so because I'm Taiwanese, I finally found this quote that I really love by a Taiwanese CEO. And he says, without strategy, execution is aimless. And without execution, strategy is useless. So what does that mean? Learning is great. However, you got to act. You got to take action after the learning, because knowledge is no longer power, especially when it comes to income generation and wealth generation. Applied knowledge is the most powerful thing that we all have at this point. And so all the strategies that are available in our curriculum are all of this. And as a result, you can see why we do have North America, once again, if not the world's largest financial education curriculum under one roof. And so I would encourage you to take out your phone and take a picture or do a screenshot, however you want to do this. Give you a few seconds to do this. Once you start learning the strategies, and again, it's not one of those things where you want to learn everything before you apply. You can learn 2 or 3 and you start to apply them, okay? So that you can create your own proof of concept for yourself. And then this is the fun part now. I'm going to give you some basic parameters that TYT has defined. And I'm going to just say, once again, this is probably my cultural background coming out and also my personal experience, as I shared earlier, in terms of why I decided to be financially educated today, is simply because of the losses and the hits that I took. And so I always take a very cautious, optimistically cautious approach with everything. And so these are the bare minimum in terms of performance that we anticipate. So first thing first, income properties, whether it's single family homes or multi-units residential, that's in passive income bucket. And we say that after stabilization, we typically, after stabilization, we typically aim for $150 per door per month. And then we have lease options, commonly known as rent to own, that feeds into 3 income buckets, which is basically the entire wheel of wealth. And that's why lease options has become such a popular and yet very well-liked strategy amongst educated investors. And that typically will generate about $500 to $1,000 in cash flow on a monthly basis. And then service accommodations. And a lot of people will know service accommodations like Airbnb, for example. However, Airbnb, in our opinion, is really just a marketing platform. Savvy, educated investors will never let one single marketing platform determine their strategies, okay? It's service accommodations, and you can further break it down to executive rentals, short-term rentals, or midterm rentals, or even student housing or rooming houses. Whatever the case may be, it has the potential to generate income in all 3 buckets and minimum $300 or more per month. For example, where are my Edmontonians at? I have a run-of-the-mill single-family home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a finished basement, roughly about 2,000 square feet, main floor, second floor, plus finished basement of about another 600 square feet. And it can accommodate up to 16 people. And that property is netting $1,000 on a monthly basis. So again, depends on the market that you go into. It'll be different. I also have service accommodations in the Midlands in the UK. And that property is netting well over £8,000 on a monthly basis. So depends on what you use it for, where the market is, you will learn how to generate that income. Like I said, bare minimum. And then private lending or paper asset investing, it's considered active and passive at the same time, depends on how you do it. Again, your strategy coaches will guide you on how you can administer that and execute those strategies. And we aim for anywhere between 8 to 50% annual return in that box there. And 50% is very, very achievable with paper asset, just not with traditional lending. 8% a lot of the times puts you in a lender position mortgage. And it's great because it's very safe for a lot of people. And so as I mentioned, this whole curriculum at the end of the day is to help you determine your own level of risk tolerance. So you can decide how you want to build your own path, because it's not one size fits all. Once again, distressed properties, and a lot of people know it as flips also. You don't always have to flip it out. However, next to distressed properties, if you're making notes, I want you to just write down property flips. We say 20,000 minimum a project. One of the strategy coaches on the team is in the GTA, Greater Toronto area, and flipping is his main strategy. And some of his projects are netting 40,000 minimum. Some of them are netting high six figures. And so again, we always like to under-promise and over-deliver at Trust Your Talent. So 20,000 minimum per project. And wholesale assignment, we take an industry average of $5,000 per deal when you assign a deal out. Again, we have a wholesale assignment course. However, I do want to share 2 high-level value points with everyone when it comes to that strategy. It's the fact that we say a TYT trained investor will only wholesale under 2 circumstances. Number 1, it does not fit your immediate business goal. Okay. And number 2, you do not have the immediate financial resources to close on it. Maybe you've just committed to another deal and another opportunity came through your door that's viable, but you've done all the due diligence, you've done all the legwork, and you do good work. You have a community of and network of people that they know you do good work. So they're willing to pay you a fee for the time and the effort and the value you've added to taking over that deal. And so if you like, I would encourage you to take a picture or screenshot of this slide as well. This is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets interesting. As I mentioned, 3 strategies in 3 different markets so that you are well-rounded. So I will be flat out honest with you, even though I'm financially educated, I've built a decent portfolio over the last few years. I still make mistakes. However, again, my mistakes, your fortune. And that's exactly how we operate, is the fact that we made the mistakes so you don't have to. We like to say that whenever a student shows up to a specific course, the course materials is literally the collection of all of our collective failures put into what not to do and translating it into what to do to make sure that you collapse the time frame to create results for yourself. However, the idea behind all of this is that the plan is a very solid plan for everyone. And I put it as a 5-year plan because our goal is to help people create financial independence or financial freedom in 2 to 5 years. And I understand not everybody has all the time in the world. We have tons of students that have full-time jobs, dual income, young children, and have extended family to take care of still. And so we always say this is not a get rich quick thing. However, it's a get rich for sure if you follow the right path. Now, if you understand this and your situation is once again different, as I keep saying, when you are speaking to a strategy coach later on, you need to make sure that you modify the plan based on their recommendation. Maybe this is a 2-year plan for you. Maybe this is a 3-year plan for you. And for some of you, maybe this is an 8-year plan and you're happy about it. Okay. I have not met a single student that created financial freedom after 5 years and looked back and said, well, that was not worth it because other people did it too. That's the thing. Honor your own journey. Okay. And so year 1, for example, 2 lease options you're putting through, it's going to spit out $1,000 a month. Remember, 500 minimum. one triplex. So 3 doors, 150 per door, times 3, 450 a month. One wholesale, because again, you're kind of getting the ball rolling. People are getting to know you and you're actively sourcing, analyzing deals, and maybe you're not able to take everything on right now. So you're going to assign that out. And then you go into paper asset investing and create $2,000 a month for yourself. And so at the end of year 1, you have added an additional monthly income of 3,866. Okay. And so I know for some people, this is kind of like, that's small potatoes and it's not exactly groundbreaking or earth shattering. However, can you start to see and can you imagine what an additional $3,800 will do to your current financial situation for yourself and your family? I think it's going to start to change a few things. At the very least, maybe relieve some stress about money. However, again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So year 2, 2 lease options from year 1, it will continue to cash flow. And then you do 3 more lease options because now you say, hey, you know what? Because the marketing that I did last year, I can do a little bit more volume. I'm going to do 1 extra one, and I'm also better at it now. So, you know, it used to, in my first deal, it took me 40 hours to put together. Now it takes me 10 hours to put together 1 lease options. So that's great. So you're now adding $1,500 a month at $500 a pop. And then 2 triplexes, meaning you've added another one. You've added another one. So you can see, I'm not saying, hey, let's go out there and buy a 100-unit apartment building right off the bat. That's not what this is about. We want to make sure that it's sustainable wealth and cash flow you are creating for yourself. And so 2 triplexes after stabilization, $900 a month. 2 wholesales, again, you have more volumes now, so $10,000 a year. And let's just say that you are learning to trade a little bit better with our paper asset course and strategy. You can now elevate your own income, okay? Or you want to put in a little bit more capital with the same rate of return, you will still be making more regardless. Now, personally, what I love the most about always creating a plan, because this is something that I do for myself on an annual basis. Still, this is basically a business plan. Is the fact that it keeps target very, very clear. And more importantly, I feel very empowered every time I do a plan like this, because I know I no longer have to rely on somebody else or somebody else's opinion of me and my performance to create income for myself for the rest of my life. And I know this is what a lot of people are looking for. And so at the end of year 2, total monthly income is now $6,633. Not quite doubling yet. However, the average Canadian household has an expenses ranging from $3,500 to $8,000. I think this is now going to start to create a very realistic dent into people's financial reality. And yet again, we continue. The funny thing about investing, though, is that once you have proof of concept, you don't want to stop, because making money is really fun once you learn how to do it efficiently and effectively. And so 5 lease options cash flowing from the first 2 years. And then you decide, what the heck? You know what? I'm going to use this as one of my 3x3s, one of my main focus strategies. So I'm going to do 4 now because my marketing is better. And instead of 10 hours a deal, it now takes me 8 hours to put together a deal. So that's $2,000 a month. And you add 2 more triplexes. You're cookie cutting it now because you're getting good at executing on a specific strategy. And then 2 wholesales, because maybe 2 deals that came by and you're like, you know what, this doesn't fit my portfolio right now, nor my growth this year. However, these are good deals. And I know that there are people in the community and my network that would buy them from me. And then again, now you have more confidence in leveraging paper assets too. Again, maybe you trade at a higher level, or you decide to add more capital with the same rate of return to increase your own monthly cash flow. Now your total income is, just a bit over 50% of our $20,000 a month goal. And then year 4, I'm going to break it down now. your 2 lease options from year 1, most lease options are anywhere between 2 to 4 years in length. So there is an expiry date. So in this particular case, we're making the assumption that these are 3-year terms. And so the 2 lease options that you set up in the first year, they will cash out. They will buy you out and you will basically have a profit at closing usually. So we're going to estimate on a lower side of 15,000 per deal. So that's $30,000 lump sum that year right off the bat. And then you also have 7 lease options still from year 2, year 3 that you're cash flowing from, okay? And then you decided that, you know what? 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. Instead of 4 triplexes, 12 doors, you now say, hey, I've got enough equity there now, and I want to minimize my management activities. And I would prefer to go into a larger asset class, which is now a bigger apartment building. So you cash those out, and then you go in and trade it up for 24-unit, multi-unit residential at 150 stabilized income per door per month is 3,600. And then 3 wholesale. At this point, I would say that most people that we know are starting to walk away from their jobs, or they transition themselves into part-time if they don't want like their jobs. And that means you have a little bit more time to be actively searching for deals. And then you will trade a little bit more, or once again, increase your capital into trading because your confidence and your skill levels have also grown. And you put in, once again, 4 new lease options because you love it so much like I do. And so at the end of the 4th year, you're now looking at about $16,000 a month. Now, even if you're a high income earner right now, you can already see the power of having control over how much money you can make for yourself. And I've literally heard an engineer student of mine from years ago, he was making, I believe, nearly $500,000 a year because he was high level executive as well. He's like, I already make that money. However, I know when I retire, my lifestyle is going to take a hit. And so this is actually perfect for me. Okay. And for him, he didn't even have to share the wealth per se. He could actually carry a lot of mortgages and do a lot of different deals himself. Again, everybody's situation is different. What I want to share with you though is when you continue on year 5, 3 lease options. Remember from year 2, they are now coming to a close as well. Once again, 15,000 per deal. That means 45,000 lump sum in your pocket. 4 wholesales now. Usually 2 to 4 wholesale deals a year for an active and professional investor is fairly normal, even if it's not a focus strategy for you. Okay, just because your resources are now opened up, your network is much, much bigger now. People know you're a serious investor, so they will basically come to you with opportunities. And because of your network, and we like to say your network is your net worth, so that because of that, you can wholesale more deals too. And then 2 flips, because now you're saying, the other strategies, I'm kind of getting bored and tired of it now. I want to go into a different market. I want to try something new. So you decided to do 2 flips that year. Bare minimum, $20,000 per deal. After you walk away, it's $40,000 lump sum in your pocket. And now between year 2 and year 4, you said, because I decided to do flips, I don't want to do lease options. So no more new lease options, but I still got 11 cash flowing every single month right now. I still got my 24 unit. And maybe you said, hey, you know what? This little 5-plex in this new market looks interesting. And again, I will share this with you. It doesn't matter how many different markets that I've been in. I've been in quite a bit of markets over the last 14 years now at this point. Every new market that I go into, my first deal is always what I call a proof of concept deal. And that includes learning about the closing process, the transaction process. And so my first deal, as much as I've already done large scale development, I still go back into, it could also be a single family home. I don't care. I want proof of concept and I want to go through the legal conveyancing process first and foremost. And so assuming that this is also you, not single family, you go into 5-plex. It's $750 on a monthly basis, and paper asset investing, you decided to keep it at 3,500 because you decided to leverage the capital you have into the fiveplex, into the flips, instead of putting more. And so coming back here, maybe you at the end of the year going, it just feels wrong that I don't do any sort of lease options, because it is personally one of my favorite, all-time favorite strategies. It is my baby strategies. You don't even need that, but I want to show you that with or without it, your total monthly income is either 22,100 or 24,100. And so you can see that this is a 5-year plan. Why do I do this? As I mentioned earlier, we're all busy. And so the idea is to create long-term sustainable income streams and wealth. It's a marathon, not a sprint. That's what we specialize in. So if that resonates with you, I'm pretty sure this next quote will too. This is something that really speaks to me a lot these days. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. I bought my very first property in the year 2004. However, I always say that I didn't become a professional investor until 2010, when I started to get financially educated, because I was literally doing buy, rent, and pray. One of my earlier mentors said that because when I moved away from Burnaby, Jeff, I had a condo in a building named Tandem. So if you know the Gilmore SkyTrain station with a Starbucks in it, that's the building. That's where I live. It was a pre-construction condo that I bought. Again, I did everything a financially savvy person should not do and would not do. So I gave him my money for 3 years, interest-free, first of all. Second of all, there was condo fees that kept climbing up, eating into my pockets when I was living there. And then when I rented it out, I was paying my tenants to live there. And that was the question that woke me up, was when my mentor said, do you enjoy paying your tenants to live in your properties? I'm like, excuse me? What did you just say? Yeah. Well, you're not cash flowing, you're not making money from it. So you're paying your tenants because you got to feed into it to keep a roof over their head. And so again, that's really the part that really woke me up. So didn't those buildings sink a bit into the old marsh? I don't think it's Tandem. I believe you're thinking about Oma, which is basically next door. Yeah. So yes, and I do know a few people. One of the students in the community actually owns an Oma as well. So we talk about it sometimes. And so step 4, get one-on-one support. Everything is great. You know, I'm showing you a path. However, it still could be general. Even if it did speak to you, I want to make sure that you understand the power and the value of having a mentor, having a coach guide you, giving you direction, giving you the support, and sometimes just giving you a nudge. I mean, we have a couple of students, existing students here tonight in this room. And the funny thing is, like I said, we are here to teach you how to fish. And sometimes the students are trained really well. All they have to come to me is, hey, Tim, we got a deal now. And because this is a few deals in, and this is our spreadsheet, this is the analysis, this is the due diligence that we did. And this is how we think we're going to approach. This is the best case scenario. This is the worst case scenario. And we think we're going to go in. What do you think? And more often than not, with those students, I would just have to say, I agree with your entire thought process. And if I were you, I would approach it the same way. So go ahead. Sometimes at that point, they just need a nudge and a nod. However, in the beginning, I understand the first few deals, there will be a lot more hand holding because it is the process of duplication. So during a mentorship, your mentor is actually going to walk you through how to build your team, and more often than not, to start a deal, if not finish a deal from beginning to end, so that you can start to duplicate that process on your own. Okay. And so here, as promised, is your action time. I highly encourage you, if you haven't done this already, reserve a spot with a strategy coach for a strategy session, or if you're already investing, do an audit. We have 4 strategy coaches available. Okay, I'm gonna pull up the QR code. So now is your chance. Pull up your phone right now, open up your camera and scan the QR code and schedule a strategy or an audit session with one of the strategy coaches. I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that if you haven't done so before already. Okay, so Ingrid and Faraz, Folake, Jeff, And GC, because I know you guys are the newbies here in this room tonight. Make sure you do that. And this link is also available on our website. But to make it easier, again, part of the hand holding, to make it easier for you, here's the QR code. I know a lot of people, the biggest question has always been, oh my God, my life is so demanding right now. How am I going to do this? I know I did emphasize and stress about the 3x3, 3 strategies in 3 different markets. Sometimes if you follow one course until successful, it can actually create a very decent financial reality for you too. So I'm going to share this with you. Another 3 to 5 year plan on one strategy if you need a different path. So tonight you're going to actually hear 2 different paths from me, and you'll learn to create your own with the help of a strategy coach when you get on that call. And so part-time effort, once again, busy dad, busy mom, busy working professionals that we all are, 4 deals per year consistently. Because I know sometimes I've got people looking at my plan earlier going, oh my God, I'm getting like a bit of an anxiety attack just looking at that because that looks like a lot to add to my plate right now. And that's okay. Let's shift gear a little bit. 4 deals per year consistently, okay? The idea is it's consistent and the purchase price now is 400,000. Now, if you're in a ridiculous market like Vancouver or Toronto right now, don't worry about where you're going to find these $400,000 properties because the world is really big and you can play. And this strategy is available and usable across the continent. And so all of them are 3-year deals. I'm going to cookie cut this for you so that you can follow along. And when you go to lease options, you're going to learn exactly what initial option consideration means. For the purpose of tonight's session, I'm just going to say that's the upfront lump sum income that you will be getting, okay? So year 1, 4 deals a year. Let's just say that we go at a very decent pace. January, we close it, we collect the 15,000, and let's say the cash flow is 1095 per month. Okay, 1095 per month. And you got 11 months of cash flow is 12,045. This is just a clean, pure deal before sharing the wealth. Okay, and then deal 2, deal 3, and deal 4, all 3 months apart. Now, all of a sudden, you can see, I've just created an additional $88,000 that year. One strategy, 4 deals consistently. And then you carry on. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Sustainable wealth is what we want. Deal 1, 2, 3, 4, continue to cash flow, kind of like in the previous example. And then you do deal 5, 6, 7, 8, the exact same way as you did the first 4 in year 1. All of a sudden, you've just added $141,030. Now, this is the point where most people will say, I could only carry 4 deals on my own. Year 2, I got to start to share the wealth. So 50-50. So chop it in half. It's $70,000. Okay. And then chop it in half again. That translates into just shy of $6,000 a month. And then we continue. Year 3, you're cash flowing from the first 8 deals that you did in the first 2 years. And then do 4 more. Do you think you're going to get a lot better at executing these deals by year 3 by now? Absolutely. So it's not going to take you as much time anymore. And total income in year 3 is now nearly 200,000. Or if you chop it in half, just shy of just a bit over $8,000 a month. These are all just numbers. Okay. You'll learn the strategy on how to execute them, but these are just numbers. But that's the best part about financial education is that let the numbers guide you. Numbers don't lie. And so year number 4, as I said, these are 3-year deals, profit at closing. And some of them, because they're closing at different times throughout the year, there's still some leftover cash flowing months that you can pick up. So not too shabby. 1, 2, 3, 4, they're going to be closing at different times. And then they're cash flowing still all the way till deal 12, because that's 4 deals a year for the first 3 years. And you still do 1, 2, 3, 4 more in year 4. This is where things get really interesting. with this particular approach. You've just now created $326,370 that year in income. Again, if all of this worst case scenario is 50-50 split, that means you are now making $163,000. And assuming you decide to continue with just 4 deals a year and nothing else, you just keep churning them out because you've built up your pipeline, you've built up your funnel, you've built up your investor database. These are easy to churn out now. You are raising your family, you continue to work your JOB, that's totally fine. I want you to understand what that number means. That means you've just created a new base salary for yourself of $163,000 a year. Because unless you decide to do more deals that have different numbers, every single year, that 326 will stay exactly the same. Think about the power of that. So instead of waiting for a year-end bonus or a quarterly bonus, depends on what your job is, to me, when I learned how to do this, I felt the most empowered in my entire life leading up to that point. And so again, this is another path that you can take. And so hopefully a lot of this landed with you. And I'm going to do a quick last call for tonight in terms of reserving a spot with a strategy coach for your audit and strategy session if you haven't already done so. So Ingrid, GC, and Jeff, I think I saw you do it as well. So that's good. Faraz and Folake.
I have a question about, so the $150 per door. That
Yes.
sounds low enough that it's quite sensitive to market conditions, interest rates, things like that. Well, I guess not market conditions, but interest rates. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. And like I said, we like to under promise and over deliver because it depends on the market and the property type and the condition that it's in, and also certain provincial laws. You can definitely get more than 150 a door. Awesome. So on that note, I just want to say a huge thank you for bearing with me. I hope my ESLness didn't really bother anyone too much tonight. I had to catch myself a few times. And if you like to stay in touch, follow us. Here are some of the different ways you can get in touch with Trust Your Talent or myself. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our own website.